So why did you choose Aberdeen for your master's?
So it wasn't really a choice, actually. Um, first of all, I did my bachelor's at Exeter. I grew up in Essex, first of all, far in the southeast, and then I did my bachelor's at Exeter, and then I went to Aberdeen. My parents thought I was trying to get as far away from them as possible, but that wasn't that wasn't at all on my mind. It was really the course. It was really the course that attracted me. So when I did my bachelor's, it was in mathematics, and at the time I chose that, it didn't really occur to me that I could do a degree in something that wasn't one of the subjects I'd done an A level in. Right? I'd been programming computers all my life, since I was 8, and that was my hobby. And then it never occurred to me that computer programming is actually a career or something you can do a degree in. So I did my bachelor's, and then I saw this course at Aberdeen on applied AI, and I thought, wow, that's interesting. So that was what attracted me.
Thank you. That's very interesting. What were some of your favorite memories from Aberdeen?
I think that the most important thing was finally being on a course and surrounded by people who are interested in the same things as me. Right. I mean, it was when I was doing maths. I mean, that was maths, but now I was doing AI, right, which was mind-blowingly interesting, and all the people on the course felt the same, and that was really great. That was, it was also as the early days of the internet. This was like 95, 96. The internet was in its very early stages, and we were all involved in it, right? We were, I became a coder on one of these talkers, which were like the precursor to modern social networks, and right, we were all involved in that. It felt amazing being involved in those early stages of the internet.
That's very great. Thank you. Did you participate in any student organizations or clubs?
So when I'd been down in Exeter, I'd started doing Kung Fu. And it was a very rare style of Kung Fu, and there weren't any clubs anywhere else. So when I got to Aberdeen, I wanted to carry on training. So I set up a Kung Fu club
Really?
at Aberdeen for the purely selfish reason of motivating myself to carry on training. But that was good. I got to teach people Kung Fu, and I got to train every week, and it was good. And I think it's really important for students to, there's so many clubs and societies available, right? You go to university and suddenly, wow, there's all these different things which you could be involved in and get, and do. And that's great. But I think it's really important as well to look outside of university life and to look at clubs and things that are going on in the town where the university is. I mean, that can be really rewarding as well.
Yes, thank you very much. And what did you enjoy the most about artificial intelligence?
I think AI, it is the most interesting area of computer science. I mean, it's really broad in scope. So, in one dimension, it ranges from the pragmatic challenges of delivering solutions to real world problems, and then at the other end, you've got these sort of esoteric questions about what is consciousness and intentionality, and so it's really broad in that scope. And then when you're doing the work itself, it can range from detailed stuff around data structures and algorithms to really practical stuff like how can you implement something that detects cancers in medical imaging and things like that, right? So it's a really broad subject, and there's just so much to find interesting in all these different parts of it.
Thank you very much. Did you participate in any internships or part-time jobs as a student?
I did not. I was very much focused on my studies at the time, and the stuff I said before about the early days of the internet and things. I mean, in Google, I have hosted a lot of interns, so I've seen it from the other side of the coin, right? And I think it's a very powerful way to do that transition from a student to having a career, and it can be really educational for the interns. And it can help them build networks, and it can open doors in their career and things. So I think it's a really good thing to do. I didn't do it personally, but I've seen it from the other side.
Thank you very much. What is your current job and responsibility at Google?
I manage a team of engineers who we're working on Google Shopping, right, which is
Mhm.
when people make queries which are of a shopping intent, we help them find the products that they're interested in.
That's very interesting. Thank you. And how did you manage to get the job in Google?
That was luck more than anything. So back in 2008, I was living in Switzerland and I was working in a bank, and it was, as you can probably imagine, working in a bank to be very dull, very tedious. I had a flat with I had this roof garden at the top of the flat. It was at the top of a building, and I used to have a lot of parties up there. And at one of the parties, a friend of mine, he pointed over the houses that we could see, and he said, "You know, those cranes over there, they're building the new Google building. That's going to be amazing. Imagine working there." Right? So I thought, wow, that would be amazing. So I sent my CV in through Google's public jobs website. Didn't hear anything. I thought, okay, that's not going to happen. And then I quit the bank I was working at, and I got another job doing for a company that does algorithmic trading, algorithmic stock market trading. And in my first week in that job, I hated it. I thought, this is hell, right? And it was one thing that really struck me, and I don't know why it didn't occur to me before I got that job, but it's something my grandfather always used to say about, you need to be giving back to society. What you do in your day needs to give back to society. And it occurred to me, this job I'm doing, all we're doing is we're sucking money out of the stock markets and the financial markets. It's not giving any value to society. And that just sort of broke my heart, and I hated it. And I was really depressed in that first week. And then towards the end of that first week in that job, I got a call from a Google recruiter. And they said, "Would you like to come and do a phone screen?" So absolutely, yes, please. So we had this phone screen. The phone screens are kind of funny because then you're on the phone and you have like a document in front of you, and they give you a technical problem and you have to solve it. And if you get through that, you then come to the on-site interviews, where you have a whole day of these back-to-back problem-solving things where somebody gives you a problem on the whiteboard and you have to solve it, and then they walk out and your head's exploding, and the next person walks in and they give you another problem, and it's an exciting challenge. The advice I give to people when they go through this is that you just have to enjoy it, because it's hard, right? And I did well in those, and they offered me a job, and I could transition from the job I hated to something where I actually felt I was doing something meaningful to society.
Thank you. That's very impressive. And the next question is, what are some of the essential skills that you learn in university which you use like to the current day?
Yeah. I think the main thing is, before I got to Aberdeen, I'd always been coding. I'd always been writing computer programs, but it had been my hobby, and it was very much something I did alone. I'd be sitting in my bedroom and I'd have my computer and I'd be writing code alone. Then when I got to university and I was surrounded by people who were doing the same sort of stuff, and we had projects where we worked together on things. And that was really a big transition for me. That was going from being a lone coder to working in a team, right? And that's something that you always need, right? Once you get into a career, you're always working with other people, you're always working in teams. So I think that's essential.
Thank you very much. So what are some key and like major projects that you've been involved in, or challenges and problems that you solved?
Yeah. So before I was in shopping, I've worked in search, calendar, YouTube, maps. A really good thing about Google is it's always valued this sort of internal mobility, right? So they encourage you to move around within the company and work in different areas. And that's really important, right? It's critical for a large company to promote internal mobility, because it moves knowledge around, it prevents people getting burnt out on roles they don't like, it helps retain talent, stop people going to other companies and things like that. So I think that's really important. And one of the key things I worked on, I think, is when I was working on calendar, I was on calendar API, right? So we were working on this API, and I was involved in the CalDAV organization, which is this sort of industry standards body about how calendaring data moves around. So we have people from Apple there, we have people from Google there, we have people from Microsoft, and that was really nice. That was really sort of seeing these companies who are competitors actually working together to achieve something that's for the benefit of the users.
That's
That was
very,
nice.
thank you very much. And what advice would you give to students who want to become successful software engineers?
I think that the most important thing is to play, right? You need to keep abreast of the latest developments that are going on in the industry. You know, read papers, read the news, see what companies are doing, and you know, when companies publish a new API, play with it, right? You know, just write a toy project. You know, just keep trying new things that are coming out there in the industry, and muck around with the new APIs that are coming out. Try to build little useful things with them, and you know, try to just constantly be playing with the software. That's the most important thing, because you got to love this stuff, right? If you don't love software, you're in the wrong industry. Do something else, right? Because you have to be focused. It's like anything. You want to be spending your time doing the stuff that you love, right? And playing with it is the best way to learn about it. It's the best way to understand the new advances in the industry. And yeah.
Thank you very much. And the next question is, what advice would you give to students who study software engineering or IT trying to get internships?
I mean, it's the same advice, really. So, you know, if you've been doing what I just said, if you've been playing with the APIs, you'll be familiar with them, right? When you go to interviews and things, you will know about what people are going to ask you. People will ask you something about, I don't know, the latest ChatGPT API, and if you've just read about it, you can give an okay answer. But if you've read about it and then spent a week playing with it, you're going to give a much deeper answer, a much more profound answer, which is going to impress the interviewers, and it's going to immediately come across that you love this stuff, that you're passionate about it, that you know that you should be doing it for them.
Thank you. And how do you manage your time effectively? Any tips?
Only the standard advice, really, which is, you know, do the most urgent things first. If things are of equal urgency, do the hardest thing first, and then never be afraid to ask for help or advice, right? So that's why you do the hardest thing first, because if you hit some barriers or hurdles, you can ask for help early. Yeah, that's the standard advice. There's nothing new there.
Thank you very much. And how do you maintain good communications within your team and other teams that you work with?
I think the most important thing about communication is that it's about the relationships. So you need to, if you treat everyone that you encounter in your work, if you treat them with respect, you treat them with love, you're curious about people, you understand what makes them tick, you understand why they have the positions they have, then communication just flows, right? It's easy, right then. But that's the important thing, is it's about the people. So understand the people. Yeah.
Thank you. What advice would you give to students trying to improve their networking skills? And maybe you would recommend attending some of the events or something like that.
I don't know of any. I mean, any opportunity to meet more people is, I mean, it's kind of foundational, right? So any conferences that you can go to, any opportunities to meet more people, and especially the kind of the soft events, right? Like the dinner afterwards and the coffee breaks and things like that. Go into these environments with the attitude I just said, and be curious about people. Go up to people and ask them about themselves. Try to understand the people that are around you. That's the best way to. I think a lot of people going into this, they can be shy at first, and that can hold them back a bit. But if you go in with this attitude, I'm going to ask people about themselves, I'm going to try to understand the people who are here, that just really helps you to understand them, it makes you have, it gives them a good impression of you, and you can get to know people.
Thank you. And how has artificial intelligence changed since you've been student?
Oh, totally different. It's night and day, right? So back in 95, 96, when I was at Aberdeen, AI was very theoretical. We had, there were lots of different things, from knowledge bases, genetic algorithms, neural networks were there, right? The technology was in some ways understood, but everything was constrained by the hardware limitations we had. And it's, the growth of the hardware, the computational power we have now, the storage capabilities, and the amount of data that we have for training sets now. This has unleashed the theoretical ideas that we had back then, right? So now all that stuff starts to work because of the technology that can power it. Yeah.
Thank you. And how do you think artificial intelligence will continue to change?
I think, the obvious short-term stuff is that large language models will continue to astound us. Their capabilities will continue to grow. I think at some point fairly soon, we're going to see a transition from the models today, which are very reactive. So you give it a prompt, something executes, and it gives you back an answer, right? That's how they are today. To continuously running agents where they've got this kind of feedback loop where you can almost imagine it like they're daydreaming. So they're actually sort of thinking about things on their own, or, there's a feedback loop going on there. And then your data goes into that, you then get an output. I think that's going to be very interesting. And I think also, we'll start to see other theoretical areas. So neural networks have exploded, right? But there are other things as well that haven't yet exploded, which I think the technological advancements will allow to do amazing things as well. I think we haven't seen that happen yet, but I think that's coming.
Thank you. And in your opinion, what are the most demanded skills in IT industry right now? Maybe some particular programming languages or something like that.
Yeah, I wouldn't say languages so much. I think if you're familiar with one or two languages, it's quite easy to pick up another language. I would say it's important that you are familiar with some of the obvious languages like Python and Java and things like that. They're not going anywhere. They'll be around for a while. But I think the most important thing is, as I was saying earlier, I think it's familiarity with the APIs and technologies that are available, understanding how these things work, understanding the foundations behind LLMs, how they work, and how to use that is the most important thing. That's why you need to play with it.
Yes, thank you. And would you recommend this career to others?
If it fascinates them, if they love the technology, absolutely. Right? I think, as I said before, the most important thing is to spend your time in your life doing the stuff that fascinates you. Right? If that's IT and computers, then this is the right career for you. If it isn't, if you'd rather be, I don't know, studying politics or something, right? Then do that, right? I think it's really, but people sometimes think, oh, what's going to be the most economically successful career, right? That's bullshit. Don't do that. Just go with what you love. Follow what you love always.
Thank you very much. It's great advice. A lot of students struggle with transition from academia to professional world. What advice would you give to students who are unsure what to do next after graduating?
Firstly, I can really sympathize with that. When I left Aberdeen, I had no idea what to do next. I just sort of got back home and thought, okay, that's done. What do I do now? And I tried, me and a friend from Aberdeen, we tried setting up a company. It was the idea of having an estate agents, which was online, right? Where you would have a website and you'd put your properties on the website, and people could look around them. This was totally revolutionary, and we contacted loads of estate agents, and they thought, no, they've heard of this internet thing, but they don't think it's going to be big. So we didn't succeed there. And then it's just being open, just really being open to what's going on around you. You'll hear about some job that might interest you, or some friend will say something or other. So keep talking to people, keep putting yourself out there sociably, and the right job will come along. I don't think you need to pursue it aggressively, right? And if for financial reasons or whatever you need to be doing something which is not that interesting to you right now, that's okay. That's fine as a temporary thing, but keep your eyes peeled, keep looking around, keep socializing, keep networking, and you'll find a job that interests you more.
And what advice would you give to students who are struggling with stress? How to overcome it?
Yeah, stress is hard. I think it's important to not lose sight of what you're doing and why you're doing it, right? If as I advised earlier, if you're doing something that you love, then stress shouldn't really be a problem, because you're doing it because you love it. And as humans, we tend to do well at the things that we love. So your grades should be quite good, and that shouldn't be a problem. I think that the problem where stress really comes in is when you're doing something which doesn't work for you, right? If you're on a degree course where it's not clicking, it doesn't feel right. And then also be open to change. Be open to, there's nothing wrong with dropping out. There's nothing wrong with changing courses. You have to follow what you love, right? And if what you're doing today right now is putting you in a stressful situation, maybe that's not the right thing for you.
Thank you. And the next question is, if you could go back in time, would you change anything about your educational journey or career, and what would it be?
Yeah, it's interesting. A while ago, I was having a conversation with my mum, and I said to her something like, "Oh, I wished I'd had a better work ethic. If I'd tried harder, if I'd worked harder at university, then maybe I would have gone on and done a PhD or stayed in academia or something." And she looked at me and she said, "Would that have been better than what you have now?" And I thought about it. No, not really, right? I think we can look back at the past and we can think, oh, how would life have been different if I'd done different things? But I think that's a bit silly. I think the most important thing is we live in the present. Enjoy the moment. You are where you are. All the decisions you made back throughout your life, which maybe you didn't know which path to take at that time, but you took one path. That made you who you are today, right? And that's the important thing. Be that person you are today. Live in the present. Don't dwell on what could have been different.
And what advice would you give to your younger self?
To enjoy every moment, to live each moment and enjoy it to its full.